Zooey mama, how's it going everybody? I'm here today to talk about Sasquatch, who I think will be the best card coming out in the May season. And in fact, I think that she might be a little bit too strong, but I will get into that. Sasquatch comes to spotlights on May 28th alongside Havoc and Ravana Renslayer. Sasquatch is a 6-cost, 10-powered card with the ability that she costs 1 less for each card you played last turn. Okay, so every card you play in the previous turn discounts Sasquatch by 1, which means really at most she's a 5/10, because if you just played like a card on turn 4, just one card even, turn 5 Sasquatch costs 5, right? So the 6 is kind of a lie unless your opponent's playing Mobius. It's almost never a 6/10, and I think she's just too good. She's just a big stat stick, and Second Dinner has been releasing some really strong stat sticks, so I'm going to go into her best synergies, the good, the kinda bad, some deck ideas, and just give my overall ratings on Sasquatch, and if she's going to be worth your precious resources. So let's get into it. So first up on Sasquatch's best synergies, the card we're going to see everywhere is Mysterio. Mysterio is 1 card in your hand, but when you play it, it counts as 3 cards played. So this powers up Hitmonkey. This discounts Sasquatch by 3. Okay, you could do turn 2 Mysterio, turn 3 play Sasquatch. Okay, just a 3/10, kind of nuts. Next up is a card like Angela. Angela loves it when you are playing a lot of cards on her location, whether they can come back to your hand or move away. Sasquatch loves cards that love other cards, okay? Just these cheap decks that can play a bunch of cards in 1 turn. And then something like Armor can be really good, especially if you're planning to play Sasquatch before turn 6, okay? You can set up big combos to play her on turn 6 for really cheap, but you can also just play her as like a 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, right? Just get her out early, have that 10 power on the board, in which case Armor may be a really big help. To get into the good and the bad for Sasquatch, we will start with the good as always. First up, she's got an amazing ceiling. Okay, we'll talk more about this on the next slide, but the potential to be a 0/10. Okay, that's a free 10. It's not going to hit there often, but even anywhere close to that is amazing. We've got huge turn 6 potential. If you are playing a card like Mysterio, that also discounts Mockingbird by 3. So it's possible, depending on what else you play, that on turn 6 you have like a 2-cost Sasquatch who has 10 power, a 2-cost Mockingbird who has 9 power, and then whatever 2-cost card you want to play. You get big power in all lanes. It could be crazy. And again, Sasquatch isn't just set to 1 turn. Okay, she can come out as early as turn 3, but you can also bring her out on turns 4, 5, or 6. I really think you just need 2 cost reductions. Okay, that brings Sasquatch to a 4/10 with no downside. Call Obsidian has a slight downside. Crossbones has a slight downside. Atuma has a big downside. Sasquatch, no downside. If you get to a 4/10, it's just a 4/10. You can play anywhere you want it. That's already really good, and you only need to play 2 cards on the previous turn to make Sasquatch a 4/10. Okay, turn 3, you play Angela and Kitty Pryde. Boom. Turn 4, you got a 4/10 Sasquatch. Sasquatch doesn't need specific cards. It really likes Mysterio. It really likes cheap cards, but you can mix and match as you please. Okay, it doesn't have to be specifically, ongoing or high power or low cost or anything. So that's nice. And then Sasquatch doesn't really lose to Sandman. It kind of gets around the issue because you're playing your big combo first, right? A card like Sarah, if you played Sarah turn 5, your opponent plays Sandman turn 5, well, turn 6, you kind of just lost. But with Sasquatch, if you are playing to get her out on turn 6 for really cheap, you played your big combo on turn 5, right? You played a lot of cards to get Sasquatch out later. So you're not just getting absolutely wrecked by Sandman, even though not even that many people are playing Sandman. So it's not a huge issue. In terms of the bad, because it's not that bad. First up, countered by Mobius. Technically, but again, you can get Sasquatch out on turn 3. Mobius is seeing a good amount of play right now. If you think Mobius is everywhere and all your opponents have him, you could just plan to play Sasquatch on turn 3. That's the turn Mobius comes down, so Mobius cannot counter it in that game. If you do get Mysterio into Sasquatch, also in Conquest mode, if you know your opponent has Mobius, which should hard counter Sasquatch, you can actually play around the hard counter that's pretty nuts, okay, that you can play around a hard counter. Sasquatch maybe conflicts with Sarah. They like similar decks, but Sarah decks usually play Sarah on turn 5, which means you're not playing that big combo to do Sasquatch for really cheap on turn 6. But you can get Sasquatch out early, or you could even just play Sarah turn 5. Sasquatch on turn 6 is a 4/10, because Sarah's one card played, and Sarah gives a discount. So it doesn't even hurt that much, even though it seems like it should. It's not that bad. Obviously Sasquatch is 10 power, so she does die to Shang-Chi. If she is your only 10 power card in your deck, that's going to be a good target. If you do have multiple big cards, then you don't really care too much if your opponent hits Sasquatch with a Shang-Chi, because then you're going to play like a 17 power Red Hulk in another lane and you're feeling good about it, right? Sasquatch is just kind of boring. Again, it's just a stat stick, okay? That's all it is. Second Dinner's been releasing at least one just stat stick a month, and they're usually the best or second best card of the month. In this case, I think it's definitely Sasquatch for this month. And then lastly, I think Sasquatch is so good, not just the strongest card of the month, I think Sasquatch might be OP. How long can you play Sasquatch until she gets nerfed? Okay, it's a risk. Right now, they have done some healthier nerfs. They gave Red Hulk a pretty healthy nerf, just 2 power off the base. So Red Hulk's still very strong. I hope they do the same for Sasquatch, but I don't know, right? It is kind of unknown. Sasquatch might be really OP at first, and if that's the case, it's a ticking time bomb. So that's kind of dangerous. Now, before we get into the floor and ceiling of the Sasquatch, this is just my friendly reminder to give this video a like, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, because we cover every single new card release in Marvel Snap. So we will start off with Sasquatch's floor. This is her at her reasonable worst. It's that she costs 1 less. Okay, the only exception is if your opponent is running specifically Mobius. Okay, Mobius is the only card that really prevents this. Mobius will just make Sasquatch a 6/10. Other than that, you're going to be playing 1 card the turn prior. Okay, even if your draws were bad or you put her in a deck she doesn't really work with, turn 4, you play 1 card. Turn 5, Sasquatch is a 5/10. Okay, and this is pretty crazy. It is good, viable, you know, it's just good power. It's not super competitive. It's like right under the line. It's just a 5/10 with no other ability, but that's the worst. I mean, again, unless you see Mobius, the worst is it's a 5/10. It's like a Dr. Octopus with no ability. That's not bad. That's a pretty good floor. Okay, now what about Sasquatch's ceiling? Well, technically it's a 0/10, but I think that's very rare. It's very, very difficult to play 6 cards in a single turn, but you can easily do 5. 5 is easy, okay? That's a big jump. Turn 5, you play Mysterio plus Hitmonkey, and that would be 4 cards, okay? And so turn 5, you could do Mysterio plus Jeff plus like Kitty Pryde, okay? So that's 5 cards there. That makes Sasquatch a 1/10. Okay, that's the reasonable ceiling. In the decks you're going to play Sasquatch, you will be able to hit 1/10 somewhat often. Okay, you're going to see it. A 0/10 is very rare, but that's okay. I mean, a 1/10, that's crazy. Okay, that's nuts. So that's above the line of being overpowered. If it was a 1/10 every game, that's just super nuts, okay, all the time. But where's Sasquatch on average? Well, honestly, I think she's really good. I think she's pretty close to the ceiling here. You can go for the turn 3 play where you do turn 2 Mysterio into turn 3 Sasquatch, in which case you just played a 3/10, which is overpowered. Or you can play her on turn 6, in which case you're going to look to play Mysterio plus anything. Okay, again, we'll even be conservative. We'll just say you're playing one other thing besides Mysterio. Maybe you're playing Bishop plus Mysterio or Mysterio plus Hitmonkey, in which case Sasquatch costs 4 less, and she's a 2/10. A 1/10 is broken, a 2/10 is broken, a 3/10 is broken. All of these are broken, okay? Sasquatch's ceiling and what I believe to be her average. If you're not getting hit by Mobius, you're getting broken value out of Sasquatch. This is why I think she's overpowered, okay? It's not hard to just make her a 3/10. In the decks you're going to play with her, and I'm going to show off some decks for you, it's just not that hard, okay? Because if you played her in a deck that wasn't built for her, she's going to be a 4/10 or a 5/10 mostly. If you try to actually discount her, you get her to 2 or 3 costs. It's not that difficult. It's too good. I think it's just too good But let's take a look at some of these decks. So first up, I've got Sasquatch in this Hit Monkey bounce deck. Okay, we've also got Mockingbird in here if we do go for the Mysterio plan, although you could even take her out. Maybe you want to just put in Falcon or something. But this is just a nice bounce deck. Okay, Hit Monkey and Bishop. Also love Mysterio. We've got Angela and Kitty Pryde. Those are constant cards you're playing. Obviously, if you bounce stuff back with Beast and you have one turn where you just play a bunch out, Sasquatch is going to love that. You've got Sage. I mean, on a turn 6 here, you could even play, turn 5 Mysterio plus Hit Monkey. That makes your Sasquatch cost 2. It makes the Mockingbird cost 2. So you could do both of those. You could just do Sasquatch plus Sage on the last turn. I mean, there's so many ways to just get big power cards on all 3 lanes and pretty consistently. This deck's going to be going hard, and especially with the Leech nerf, I think Bounce is going to have a real presence in the meta again. All right, next up, we're looking at a Loki deck, because why not? Loki is just good. Loki loves new cards, okay, is how it works. Loki just loves anything with big power that maybe you can get out for cheap. Loki will take. And so here, we've got a lot of good options for Sasquatch. Again, we have the Angela. We've just got cheap stuff like Kitty Pryde, Quinjet. If we're copying stuff with Cable, we're getting that at a discount. And if we happen to just play Loki with like a full hand and get a discount and you draw Mockingbird after, you can play Mockingbird for cheap. Or you just play Loki, play a bunch of stuff on turn 5, and if you manage to draw Sasquatch, you play Sasquatch for cheap. Okay, I mean, Loki just works. You can just find any big power card pretty much. If it has good, cost to power, slot in Loki and you will get good value out of it. Last up, we've got the Slayer Blade deck. I think this deck goes by a couple of different names, but I originally found it from Safety Blade over on Twitter, and he calls it Slayer Blade. So I took out, I think, Wolfsbane, and I put in Sasquatch. Sasquatch, I think, likes decks that don't have 6 cost cards, or maybe they only have 1. And same thing if you can get discounts for like turn 5. That way you can just play Sasquatch early, okay? Now here we've got the Ravana discount, who's helping out Professor X, Angela, and Sage. So you might just be able to get those cards out for cheaper, play a couple cards on turn 4, maybe get Sasquatch out on turn 5 for Cannonball turn 6. This just helps you really mix and match cards, and Sasquatch is all about that. And this deck, it's just good. So here we have a close-up at the spotlights for May 28th to June 4th with Sasquatch, Havoc, and Ravana Renslayer. Now, to talk about my ratings for token value, it's bad. Havoc is a Series 4 card, 3,000 tokens. Ravana is a Series 4 card, 3,000 tokens. I mean, this is basically the lowest value in terms of token value cash we're ever going to see again. You could technically maybe have all 3 cards be Series 4, but Second Dinner isn't releasing Series 4 cards anymore, right? All new cards are coming out as Series 5, so this really is the worst token value cash you will see going forward. In terms of being competitive, it's okay. I'm kind of excluding Sasquatch from this rating because we technically don't know how he performs yet. Ravana's solid. She's a decent card. I like her. She's seen a bit more play recently. Is getting countered a bit by Mobius, but she's solid. Havoc, not so much, right? Very skippable, not super competitive. So it's kind of just okay, right? You hope to have Ravana, don't really need Havoc. For the variants, yeah, I think they're okay. Maybe they're just not my style. Okay, you might really like the variants. I like the Sasquatch one a good amount, and the Ravana one is okay as well. I'm not big on the Havoc, but art is subjective. You may completely disagree with me on these, but I think in terms of a spotlight week, it's pretty weak. Okay, I think this is a weaker one, and maybe Second Dinner did that on purpose, knowing Sasquatch herself is very desirable, so you're going to want to open caches because of Sasquatch and not the other cards they're pairing up with her. Now, to give my final ratings on Sasquatch herself in terms of being fun, no, she's not fun. She's another boring stat stick. Second Dinner releases every month, and I think they have to make these cards really good and really competitive to see play because they're boring. If they're not fun and they're not good, they see no play. If they're not fun but they're really good, they see play. That's kind of just how it is, at least how I see it. In terms of being flexible, Sasquatch is pretty flexible. Again, you don't need specific cards. She likes cheaper decks, but if you're just planning to play 2 things on turn 3, Sasquatch is a 410. Okay, I mean, it's not hard. Plenty of decks play two things on turn 3. They mix and match, okay? It's not crazy. Definitely if you're not relying on a specific 5-cost card, you can go to play Sasquatch because you play multiple things on turn 5. But the only case it doesn't work is if you're doing like Jane Foster on turn 5 because you're playing Mr. Negative or like the Hammer package and you for sure want just one card turn 5. In terms of being competitive, I think Sasquatch is amazing. Okay, again, I've said it, it's just great stats. We know it's great stats because we know 410s are solid. So the fact that we can get a 310, a 210, a 110, every now and then, very rarely, we will see Sasquatch as a 010. It's crazy. And now you can do Sasquatch plus Mockingbird. And Sasquatch, by the way, is more flexible than Mockingbird. It's just too good. Maybe we even see Thanos come back a bit, right? Maybe, you know, one of the strongest decks is just Thanos with Sasquatch now. You do Sasquatch and Mockingbird. Who knows, okay? Thanos isn't that bad. He's just not being played, so that's possible. So my ratings for Sasquatch is to get it, but with a nerf warning. I gotta put this out there, okay? I think Sasquatch is really good. I do. I think she's great. If you're looking for a card to just put in some decks, win some games, that is Sasquatch. So I give her the thumbs up because I know that's what most people look for. Most people want good cards. They want competitive cards. I personally like fun cards, you know, cards that have a bit more of the fun element. And so I'm not super looking forward to Sasquatch. But I understand most people want this. But my warning is expect a nerf. Okay, maybe I'm wrong and it doesn't happen. And that would be great. If you get Sasquatch and she doesn't get nerfed and you love her just the way she is, that's great. If she does get nerfed, I hope it's very small. Maybe they just make her a 710, a 6-8. I don't know. I hope they don't just nerf her to the ground because that would suck if you spent 6,000 tokens or a bunch of spotlight keys and she got nerfed to where she's just not worth it. So that's my only warning, is that she's a great card. Go for her. Go ahead and get her. She's the best card of the month, in my opinion. That's my prediction. But she could easily get nerfed because stat sticks, they get out of control fast and then they get nerfed. So let me know what you think of Sasquatch in the comments down below. Let me know what you think her best synergies are, if I missed any. What decks she might fit best in. Again, maybe it's like a sleeper Thanos deck that just makes a revival in the meta. Who knows? So until then, stay positive, and I'll see you next time.